Let's see who's in the line. It should be our head of Audi Denkwerkstatt, Tim Miksche. There he is.
Hello, Mira. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, and I see your smiling face. Perfect. I'm very happy
to see you. Thank you
yes.
very much for having me.
So I hope we don't have the delay. So apologies if that appears. Tim, you are new head of Audi Denkwerkstatt, but you're actually not a new face to Audi. You've been with the Four Rings for 18 years, which is like, wow, for that. But then you changed and actually went to Tokyo, Japan to start your own business, your consultancy, where you were actually in collaboration with startups and corporates and help them grow their business. So first question, before we talk more about your experiences there, what brought you back to Audi?
Well, thank you for the question, Mira. And again, thank you for having me. I'm sorry I can't be with you in the studio. But traveling from Berlin, obviously, right now is a little bit delicate. So we prefer to stay here. Why am I back with Audi and whatever brought me to Audi? When I started out after university, way back when, there was something that intrigued me about Audi, and it has kept apparent or kind of looking at the brand and keeping in mind the brand for ever since. And that is the fact that Audi at the time was a challenger. You know, it wasn't the well-established premium automotive global company and player it is today, but a very unique mentality of challenging the other competitions and about doing different things and opening to new ideas and kind of being on the move. And this is what fascinated me initially when I came to Audi. And quite honestly, over the path of my career throughout Audi, I have been able to kind of reinvent myself, think along the edge. The company was always striving to do new things, and it gave me a very comfortable feeling that I could contribute to change. And so actually when I got the call while I was in Tokyo, whether I wanted to come over and join Audi again to go to Audi Denkwerkstatt and head the operations there in Berlin, it was a no-brainer for me. I immediately said yes. Okay, well, just maybe two words about what the Denkwerkstatt is for the familiar. We are a company-owned innovation hub. We take our colleagues from within our own organization, expose them to the startup ecosystem and innovation ecosystem in Berlin, and then ideate together with them in sprints and teams on new business ideas, digital business models, on mobility as a whole. And that's actually the unique thing, Denkwerkstatt, that we take our own people and work with our own people without throwing money into the market and trying to purchase any type of innovation. And this actually is also a key to the KPIs that we work with. The most important measure of success is actually the inspiration and the mindset change that these people bring back when they go back into the headquarters and into their everyday type of business. We have now a network of over 125 alumni on all levels of the corporation, from people working on the production of our vehicles at the production line, all the way through top management. And the inspiration that you see in their eyes and the creativity and the wow effect it generates, that to us is actually key. However, Mira, we also have some business drivers that are relevant, and I guess the most important business metric to us is the success rate of the teams. So we work with them for about half a year, and we had 16 teams over the past few years already going through the process. And 60% of those ideas that they generated actually went out to be either spun out as own ventures or are taken up by a business unit inside the Audi or Volkswagen group to build new business or an addition to the product lineup that the company has.
So maybe you can spill a little bit more where you're putting the ideas or where the ideas go into.
You mean what happens with the idea once it's through the process, right?
Excuse me, like what are the ideas about? Like what kind of white spot did you find?
Okay. Okay, well, I guess we must consider we're not doing product innovation in terms of hardware. That will be up to the engineers to do. We are actually looking at the broader scope of our customer clientele. For example, right now we are occupying ourselves with the question of Generation Z and the habits in terms of mobility and how they occupy themselves in their everyday lives, what's important to them in relation to anything that has to do with coming from A to B or moving through their lives. And right now we, for example, are talking about a topic of escapism. So what do people do when they want to get away from it all? And what type of role can Audi play to make sure that when they want away from it all, we'll be there to help them have a good experience, get new insights, and actually kind of have a mind-changing experience. So it's not about hardware product. It's about experiences and about reaching into the lives of our existing and future customers.
One question that's also coming from the community. Tim, we talked about it before. You went to Tokyo, to Japan, and you experienced the Japanese startup scene over there. So you actually experienced innovation from a corporate perspective and now from also the startup perspective. There's a question asking, how does corporate innovation vary to startup innovation? Broad question. Can you pull it down?
Yeah, I think the very first thing is that corporate innovation obviously is a much longer, that's the way that we traditionally run it. So we have much more time and we have much more financial resources. And a lot of corporate innovation is, from the timing aspect, very research-based and very thorough. This creates a problem in itself, obviously, because we see that innovation cycles outside of corporates are actually accelerating at a very high speed. And so many companies are now coming to what we could call a hybrid model, where they are trying to access startup innovation in the early stage and then integrate those innovations into their own processes and into their own products. We must consider one thing. The corporate innovation process is a very great benefit. Normally, the corporate being profitable will have financial resources that give the researchers and the people working on the innovation much longer leeway. Startup innovation, however, has a very short runway. The founders are basically faced with the money that they have, and the resources are financially normally the financial resources are relatively limited. So that's why I aspire. However, I would like to see much more collaboration between corporates and startups, especially in deep tech, because some deep tech startups are actually failing, not because of the idea, but because of lack of financial resources. So it's kind of a trade-off, and I'm working on this on the edge between one and the other, and I hope that we can actually, as Audi, do a good contribution to help founders go through the process and at the same time inspire ourselves and do something good for our products and clients.
Could you actually imagine opening up the Denkwerkstatt to other startups, as you said, to enable that corporate startup collaboration?
Well, we didn't talk in detail, Mira, today about the process of how we do being very vague. But if we wanted to go in detail, I would tell you that the reason why we're lean is exactly that. We challenge ourselves with venture capitalists. We hire ourselves in the ecosystem here in Berlin, where we regularly invite and reach out to startups, to founders, to artists for that matter, to inspire our entrepreneurs with as much information from outside as we can. So the collaboration between the Denkwerkstatt and the ecosystem here in Berlin is actually very, very wide. And I personally would like to do a workshop once with a few founders, just kind of throw our ideas at them and see how that works. But then again, I have a few other ideas in my head that I will now start to work on while I'm here.
Let's finish up with one question. We said before that you had an amazing time in Japan, really diving into the startup scene. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on that, and then also let us know what are your learnings that you're now taking into your new role.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking. After about 18 years within Audi, I had the unique opportunity to do something completely new. moving to a new culture, and also kind of reinventing my own, business background, where I stopped working for Audi and considered to actually be an entrepreneur myself, which was a challenge in itself, and even more so in a new cultural environment. What I learned from Japan and the Japanese startup ecosystem is actually very valuable to me now, and it's mainly comprises of two things. One is there is a lot of energy, intrinsic energy in the founders in Japan, because Japan is not necessarily founder friendly. The way that this conservative business community was not necessarily pro-founders. So anybody that has the energy to go against that is very determined. And from this determination, I take a lot of strength as an example to me and to others. Secondly, I also had the lucky opportunity of working with many other corporations aside from the Volkswagen Group. So I got an outside view, and I got to work with many other global players and learn about the way that they do innovation. And just to give you an example, Japan, the current innovation deficit is trying to be cured by corporates throwing a lot of their saved money as corporate venture capital into the scene. However, if you look closer, you will see that money alone doesn't solve any problems. You must be able to also open yourself, open your organization, and open your processes to actually work with the startups and the entrepreneurs that you give your money to. And this learning, how that works and what's successful and what's not, those examples I now take back into the Denkwerkstatt, and they're a big inspiration for me of how to do my work.